This episode is brought to you by Dime Media. Love supporting local, but looking to save? I've got the solution. Introducing the 2025 CNY Women's Network Members Card. This is your passport to exclusive year-round savings at over 35 amazing women-owned businesses across Central New York. Whether you're grabbing coffee, booking a spa day, or shopping a local boutique, using your members card means more than just discounts. You're empowering women, strengthening small businesses, and building a thriving community one purchase at a time. Want to see all the offers and partner spots? Head to cnywomensnetwork.com/members-card or click the link in our bio. And here's the best part. Join the collective by CNY Women's Network and you'll get your members card free with your annual membership. More details at cnywomensnetwork.com/membership. Let's grow together, one card, one connection, one business at a time. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cultivate CNY. Today's episode is a little bit different. It is going to be a solo episode. This is actually my second solo episode for the pod. Still not used to it, so pray for me. And if you missed the first one, I told you all about my journey, where I came from, how I got started here with CNY Women's Network, and a little bit about where we're headed. So if you're curious about that, be sure to go back and listen. Today's solo episode, I'm going to be answering some questions from the audience. I meant to do this last time, but we just didn't get around to it. And before I knew it, I was about 45 minutes deep into my solo episode, and it was time to reel it in. Okay. So, nevertheless, I did not forget about your questions if you submitted them to me last time. We got some really good questions, and I cannot wait to answer them for you. Bear with me. I am a professional yapper, so I might carry on a little bit too long, but we're going to try to keep these answers short and sweet so I don't take up too much of your time. If you do want me to dive a little bit deeper into any of these questions, you can shoot us a DM on Instagram at Cultivate CNY. I'd be happy to do a solo episode on any of these topics, really, because these were some really good questions. So, whether you're listening today as a founder, a creative, a leader, or simply just a fellow community member of Central New York, I hope this conversation meets you right where you are. So, let's get into it. The first question is, if you could dream big for the future of your group, what would that look like, especially as it grows? Great question. Honestly, I keep thinking more and more lately that I have to sit down and map out a 5-year plan. And I'm just going to call myself out right now. I do not have a business plan for CNY Women's Network. I actually have been talking to the Wise Women's Business Center a little bit more lately about their business accelerator program. It's like an 8-week intensive where you write your entire business plan with the help of experts. And I am still considering doing that. It's just a really big time commitment for me. Even though I love to fill up my plate, I think I need to prioritize kind of pruning the tree a little bit and getting rid of things. I'll keep you updated on that, whether or not I decide to do that this year. But if not this year, definitely in the future. If you have an idea, or if you've already started a business and you don't have a business plan yet, but you're looking for more clarity and direction, I highly, highly recommend that you do take this intensive course. It is a free resource. There is an application process and a waiting list. As you can imagine, spots for this intensive are in high demand, especially as our community continues to grow and all these amazing small businesses continue to pop up left and right, as they are. So if you want more information about that, I'll actually leave a link in the show notes and you can do a little bit of research on this intensive with Wise Women's Business Center. Highly, highly recommend. Like I said, I think there's just something so empowering about having direction and having a very clear vision for where you're headed, especially as you are building a business. Now, back to the question. If you could dream big for the future of your group, what would that look like? Let's see, dream big. I mean, I guess dreaming big for me for the future of this group or this community, if you will, is really being able to feature and spotlight and bring in really influential speakers, especially to our summit. But as of late, I've been kind of putting myself out there a little bit more with this podcast and been pitching people that I may have once viewed as like out of reach, but I really just want to continue to do as much networking on my end so I can bring in some really influential, inspiring speakers to our events and to everything that we're doing. So we can just continue to kind of raise the bar and just bring this like next level content that we have never really had access to here in Central New York. So I guess that's a big dream. There's some speakers that I would love to host at our summit. And you know what? I'm not going to be shy. I'm going to tell you who they are right now. I think it's important for us to be bringing in speakers that, yes, are like doing these big, incredible things, but have at least one or a few ties to Syracuse or Central New York. One of my strategies for that has been looking at Syracuse University and who's their alumni, who went to Newhouse, who has come out of this area and has gone on to do amazing things, whether or not they were born here or grew up here. So one of those people is Gabby Bernstein. You might know her. She's an incredible author and thought leader. She's got a great brand. She runs a really incredible mastermind community for ambitious women. Definitely look into it. She's incredible, and her work has most definitely made an impact on my life personally and just like my personal growth. Another person is Melissa Benachet, and you might know her as Baked by Melissa. She is also a Syracuse University alumni, and she has built an incredible brand with the help of her team. She's the co-founder of Baked by Melissa, and it's really started out as like an e-commerce. Well, no, it didn't start out as an e-commerce. It's developed into this massive e-commerce brand. But it's the little mini cupcakes that you can order for Mother's Day, for any special occasion, really. But herself, she has built an incredible personal brand for herself, and she is, one of the most followed people on social media. She's got really great content. She really knows how to, capture people's attention and just build a very authentic personal brand. We hear the word authentic all the time. It's really important to be authentic, but Melissa Benachet is someone that is within the first 2 seconds, you realize she is exactly who she is. You know what I mean? And not to mention her voice is, I don't know if this is just me, but her voice is very soothing. And I think that also doesn't hurt when you are, doing a million voiceovers a day and all of your content is really dependent upon these voiceovers, you explaining your process, your recipes, what you're doing, whatever it is. So, dreaming big for the future of my group is maybe having Baked by Melissa headline our CNY Women's Summit. Who knows? Never say never. Okay, next question. Do you have any specific challenges that you've come across in planning events? How did it turn out? What did you learn? So, events are no joke. We started out by hosting events. I would say that every single event has been worth it because I think it's single-handedly been the strongest strategy for building this audience and establishing the CNY Women's Network as it is today. However, I was not an event planner before I started this. I had very little experience in planning events and really had more experience in the PR and community outreach side of hosting the event and not necessarily the logistics and all the things you don't think about until they become a problem. So let me just preface this by saying that. However, you might be wondering, okay, so how did you learn how to plan events? How'd you figure this all out? I did not take a class. I haven't really sat down with anybody that's a professional and have asked them their method. I just kind of quite literally just figured it out as I went. That being said, we are still experiencing a lot of first times and hosting a lot of events for the first time that we are hoping to eventually host annually, or maybe we are planning on doing an event series where there's multiple events throughout the year. If you are thinking about hosting your own event, especially the type of event that you want to maybe use as a revenue stream for your business. It's not like you're hosting a launch party and you're paying for all the food and beverage, everything that goes into it, and you just need to get people there to celebrate you. What I'm talking about is very different. Using events to create profit in your business or generate revenue. So it's a totally different mindset and approach that you need to have when it comes to logistics and ticketing, especially. My biggest challenge really has been figuring out the money side of it all, honestly. So I've made many mistakes. I've wasted a ton of money. And I'll be honest, like, to be completely honest, we just hosted our first supper club just a couple of weeks ago. And I would say that that event was a complete success. All of my expectations were met and even exceeded with that event. However, we were still in the red by $700. We lost $700 on that event. Tickets were ranged from $199 to $249. So you're thinking, like, if you just look at that ticket price, anybody would assume that I'm making bank off this event, right? But a lot of people don't realize, especially those who have never hosted an event, they don't realize all of the work and all of the hidden expenses that come up when you host an event. For me, my first priority is always going to be creating a really high quality experience, a really valuable experience for everybody who attends my events. So I will not bat an eye at like shelling out the money when I need to if a last minute expense comes up. That's just simply the risk that you take when hosting an event or even starting a business. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to pay for things that you never plan on paying for. And that's just the truth. But if you're willing to bet on it and take that risk, just make sure it's a calculated risk and that you are getting something out of this event. The return on investment doesn't always have to be revenue in cash form. It could be increased brand awareness. It could be cultivating a community for your brand. It could be simply a platform that you create for yourself to sell your products or services. There's so much value that events provide in general without the profit. However, we are a media and events company here at CNY Women's Network. So it's important that we do try at least to generate some profit from our events because there is a lot of time, effort, and money and resources that go into every single event that we host. So I would say that the hardest part is budgeting. I've accepted at this point that the first time I go to host an event, I'm most likely going to take a loss. So I don't beat myself up, honestly. There's no point in that. What I do, though, is go back to the drawing board, comb through that expense sheet, the profit and loss sheet with a fine tooth comb, and make sure that we are rock solid for the next event that we may host that is similar. And just kind of go from there. You learn as you go, honestly. If you guys want to talk about how to monetize events and, dive a little bit deeper into event planning, happy to do that. Events are what we do here at CNY Women's Network, so we should definitely talk about that another time in another episode. For now, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. And this person has asked, what has been the most rewarding part of creating your company? I love this question, especially because the CNY Women's Network is truly like such a mission-driven company. So mission-driven that a lot of people think we are a non-for-profit, and I get to tell them that we are actually a for-profit company, just still figuring out the profit side. So that being said, the work that I get to show up and do every day is so purpose-driven. I find so much purpose in my work, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So, and you know what, that keeps me going because building a business, as you may know, is no joke. It is not for the weak. It is not for the faint of heart. It's really, especially in moments where you are like heading towards burnout, it's really hard to just keep trying. But because I built this whole thing not to make profit or not to make money, I built this to honestly create a sense of belonging for women in Central New York because I felt so lonely at the time before creating this. I just know that this brand or business or whatever you want to call it is impacting so many more people than just myself. So that alone is what keeps me going because I can't give up. If I give up, then I feel like I would be letting down all of the women of Central New York and it's just simply like all of the people in Central New York that have reached out over the past couple of years since this all started and have told me, how important it is what I'm doing and how glad they are that I'm showing up and creating these opportunities and platforms because there just simply haven't been enough here. So I digress. I'm going to go back to the question now. What's been the most rewarding part of creating your company? I would say the most rewarding part is when I get to see with my own two eyes, women benefiting off of the opportunities or the spaces that I've created for them. For example, I have watched women attend our summit and by the end of the day, they literally had their new business idea and went into business together. And they're still to this day, this was in 2023. So they're still to this day building that business together. I have also been able to connect a few women with job opportunities that, I was hearing about and it just kind of was right place, right time. But I know that some of these opportunities have, changed these women's lives. And a huge reason why I'm passionate about that in particular is like connecting women with their dream careers is because I was my mother was the breadwinner in the family. So I grew up with a working mom, a very ambitious working mom that just kind of like really made me want to work hard, honestly. I grew up dreaming of my career and not necessarily of maybe some of the things other little girls grow up dreaming about. One of the drivers for me creating CNY Women's Network was that I knew that I was here in Central New York and I wasn't going anywhere because I had, some business obligations here. My fiance lives here, owns a business, is tied to this region. So I knew I wasn't going anywhere, but I wasn't satisfied with the job opportunities here. So I've always just been one of those people that is super impatient and I don't like waiting around for opportunities or for permission to do something. So I've always kind of leaned more on the side of entrepreneurship and just doing it myself, if you will. Yeah, that was one of the big motivators for me with CNY Women's Network, especially in the beginning. I just felt like there weren't enough opportunities for someone like me. And when I say someone like me, I mean like a creative, progressive young woman with a lot of drive and ambition that wanted to also have a creative and ambitious career. And I was, in a very creative role before this as a makeup artist. And before that, I wanted to be a dancer. So, me kind of naturally progressing, I guess, into like media, entertainment, stuff like this. It's so not Syracuse. And it's like very much like, Alex, why don't you go to New York or LA or something? Well, I don't really have that option right now. So I'm just going to make the most of it here. And, I also did realize that there was a need for more media. But when I explain this to people like in real life, I like to say that I wanted to make Syracuse like there needed to be more glamour. Do you know what I mean? And I think maybe me working in beauty or me growing up like in performing arts, I've always been in this world of like glitz and glamour and entertainment. And that's just what I love. And that's what I've always done. So I think me creating this podcast and, hosting really like high end events that, provide these elevated experiences for people to have here in Central New York, that's really because I was like, if I do anything with this company or brand or whatever you want to call it, it's going to make Syracuse and Central New York a more glamorous place to be and to live and to play and work. So I was really talking about what the most rewarding part of creating my company was. And then I was talking about the motivation behind it. So going back to what I was saying, given that I was raised by a woman who was very much carrying the household on her back, it was important for me to not only create these incredible opportunities for myself professionally, but to also hopefully connect other women in our community with their dream careers or dream jobs or opportunities. I've also noticed like an increasing demand just like from the back end of things that we're starting to get more inquiries from organizations that have these like high level leadership positions opening up, and they're coming to me and asking me like, who do I know that would be a good fit for this position? Who knows, maybe I'll just start a headhunting firm. Just add that to the roster, right? That being said, there's a lot of rewarding things that come with building the CNY Women's Network, and I could not be more grateful for doing this work. So, whether you've attended an event or you're listening to this podcast right now, thank you so much for being on this journey for me and for being the reason why I get to show up and do this every day. So, thanks. This episode of Cultivate CNY is brought to you by, well, no one yet. But that's about to change. After 2 years of incredible conversations with Central New York's most inspiring leaders, we are officially opening the door to sponsors. That's right. If you'd like to support the show and get your brand in front of a loyal and growing audience, email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship opportunities. All right, back to the show. All right, next question. Who has been your greatest mentor during the impressive growth of your company? Well, first of all, thank you for saying the growth has been impressive. It has most certainly been a whirlwind, and we are just about 2 years in at this point. It's insane. But yeah, in July of 2023 is when we started filming Cultivate CNY. First of all, I can't believe it's been 2 years. Second of all, thank you for saying that. That's very kind of you. And last but not least, who's been my greatest mentor? So, mentorship is a funny subject for me because honestly, this was another reason why I started the CNY Women's Network was actually like in my mind at the time, I needed two things when it came to networking. I needed a community of women that I could relate to and feel supported by, women that were like in the same place as I was, like in that building that building mode in their career, right? So I simply was just looking for camaraderie, community, support, but I wanted to be very selective with who those comrades or what that community looked like. At the time, I was really, really lonely, and my friends honestly were like the thought leaders that I was listening to on podcasts. I just remember listening to so many podcasts about business and entrepreneurship and all these things, and I was like in this stage of like personal development. So honestly, I think there's seasons of life, and there's seasons where we're more social and we're more focused on making connections, and then there's seasons where it's like we need to just focus on our own personal growth. So that's where I was at that time. But then I got engaged and had to think about planning a wedding. And first of all, that was like a whole thing. I feel like planning a wedding teaches you so much about yourself, especially like where you're lacking, or at least where you think you're lacking in your life. So, what that brought up for me was that, oh my God, I don't have anyone to invite to a wedding. Who are my bridesmaids going to be? And keep in mind that I also was working in the wedding industry too. So, I was a makeup artist for brides, and therefore, I had the incredible privilege of being a part of the village for all these beautiful women's special days. And because I was there before the event, I was doing everybody's makeup, not just the bride, but the bridesmaids, the mother of the bride. I got kind of like a backstage pass to really observe a ton of different family and friend dynamics. And what I had realized right before starting CNY Women's Network is that I wasn't satisfied with my community or lack thereof. So it was important for me that I was not only networking and making professional connections as I was choosing to make that transition out of my makeup career. But it was important that I was just simply meeting women that I respected, admired, and wanted to be friends with, and wanted to be around. We've all heard the term, you are who you surround yourself with. Your life will be the average of the 5 people that are surround you, all that stuff. And that's what I was hearing from those podcasts I was listening to. So I knew how important it was for me to prioritize making new connections, finding my community, and really like investing in that area of my life that I was not satisfied with whatsoever. Then I realized there was really nowhere to do that, especially at the time it was 2022 and like there were no events happening. So that was one side of it when it came to like why I needed to network. The other side of it was here's who I want to be. Here's where I see myself going. Like I could visualize like the woman I wanted to become, but I knew that I needed to find mentors to become her. I would say I've done a pretty good job at being as resourceful as possible when it comes to teaching myself things about business and like personal development. I've done a lot of work on my own, really, right up until this point now. And, the plan 2 years ago was to find a mentor. And then I started a company and was too busy to find a mentor. So, this whole topic of mentorship is funny to me because where I'm at right now, I'm really proud of how far I've come. And I'm really excited to get to this next level. But I also am wise enough now to know that I'm not going to get there on my own. There's only so far you can go on your own. And I've been really lucky to build a company in, the year 2025 with AI at my fingertips. And I will say that really up until this point, AI has been my mentor. I have used AI as a mentorship tool. I'm at the point now where I kind of want to actually feel supported, like genuinely supported by other human beings and other women that have done all the things I want to do and are truly invested in my success and playing a role in that. And if you're listening to this podcast, or maybe if you identify as someone who's really like high performing or ambitious, then you might relate when I say this. It's so hard for me to ask for help. And to be honest, like most of the time, I don't even know where to start or where to begin. Like sometimes I don't even realize that I need help until someone tells me and checks me, Alex, like you need to be talking to someone about this. You should not be doing this alone. You don't need to do this alone, honestly. One of the things that holds a lot of us back from taking action or getting things done in the first place is the fact that we just don't know how to do it. But for me, a huge mindset shift is like, realizing I don't know how to do something and coming to peace with that and like still accepting myself regardless, like not beating myself up for the fact that I don't know everything and I'm not good at everything. There's something so liberating about just, choosing to accept yourself and not to waste time simply because you don't know. So I have most recently, I've been speaking it into the universe and haven't completely put it into action yet. But I also think that mentorship takes shape in many different forms. And you don't have to, formally ask someone to be your mentor and meet with them on a super strict schedule for a certain period of time. Like that's not what mentorship has to be. Mentorship could simply be checking up on that one person that you really respect and admire every quarter and grabbing coffee with them. Whatever comes up comes up. Whatever you will need to ask or to talk about will come up for you. So it's kind of taking the pressure off of like, oh my gosh, I have to find a mentor and it has to be this whole entire thing, and really just like approaching mentorship as tapping into the intelligence of all the incredible people that surround you every day. Like your coworker could be your mentor. Trainer could be your mentor. Actually, I think, being mentored by someone like a trainer is a really good idea. So I've been thinking more and more lately about like who are my board of directors, if you will. And people talk about this in leadership is like, who are your board of directors? Who are the people that are supporting you and backing you and really investing in you? But I actually kind of want to form a board of directors for CNY Women's Network, but we're not a non for profit. So I don't really want to like do the whole board of director thing like everybody else does it, or like it has to be done in the nonprofit world because there's like a bunch of rules and criteria you have to meet for that. But I'm really thinking lately like I would love to form an advisory board for the CNY Women's Network of like 6 women that all have different strengths but all are like community leaders here in Central New York that understand the market, understand the people, and that genuinely care not about like what I'm doing or trying to build, but care about me as a young leader who doesn't really know what the heck she's doing, pouring into me in that way and kind of being like that big sister. Cause I could really use a big sister right now. So that's my take on mentorship. I will report back on this whole advisory board situation. I already have a few people in mind, but I have yet to ask anybody about being a part of this yet. I still kind of want to figure out how I want this advisory board to run. But just the thought of it gets me super excited because I know for a fact that as soon as I do start getting the help and support that I need, the ball is going to get rolling so quickly and it's not going to be hard for me to reach that next level, especially because there's such a wealth of intelligence and wisdom in this community and I know that there are people that want to help me. It's just that I need to show up and ask for the help and do the work on my end. So, if you're one of those people and you're listening, thank you for supporting me and believing in me and I promise I will be reaching out soon to ask you to coffee. We're going to do one more question. Okay, this one's kind of fun. If you went back to school for anything you wanted and money didn't matter, what would it be? I think this is going to surprise a lot of you. This might be I'm going to look for Andy's reaction here and see what he thinks. So if I went back to school for anything and money wasn't an option, I would go for economics. And I'm being dead serious. I'm being serious. Hear me out. I think economics is fascinating. Okay. Like so fascinating. I think it's also, especially when you start mixing in like policy into all of it, I think it's really just I don't know, maybe I'm obsessed with like things that make a big impact on a community or greater population. But like, I'm personally super interested in the economic development of Central New York. That is another motivator for me. We're talking about all of my motivators today for CNY Women's Network. I'm super interested in economic development. And I would love to say I'm an expert in economics. Now, the reason why I say this is because you said money was no issue. And I know for a fact that if I did go to get an economics degree, that it would take me an extra couple of semesters to finish because I have taken economics classes and they are not easy. It's like I am incredibly interested and I would most definitely be determined enough to pass and to get that degree. But I know for a fact, like, I would have to reread the same chapters multiple times to actually comprehend what the heck is going on. But nonetheless, that's why podcasts are amazing. Reading for me is just, I don't know, at this point in my life, I'm like, is it off the table? I would love to cultivate that habit, but my fiance loves to watch TV before bed, and he really doesn't ask for much. So, and like before bed is the only time I could see myself reading. So, I guess those are the sacrifices we have to make in these partnerships. But anyways, that's about it. That's all the Q&A I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If there's a certain topic that I talked about today that you want me to dive a little bit more into, shoot us a DM on Instagram at Cultivate CNY and just let us know. Or you can comment on one of our reels for this episode and tell me there. We love a comment. I appreciate all the engagement. And if you have made it this far Thank you for listening. I'm glad you're interested, and I look forward to doing more of these solo episodes for you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you next week. Bye. Whether this is your first time tuning in or you've been listening since the beginning, I do not take it for granted. When I started this podcast, I honestly didn't know where it would go. I just knew that I wanted to have real conversations with people doing meaningful work right here in Central New York. 2 years in, this still feels like a dream, but I also know that we are just getting started. If you enjoy what we do here, please join the 32% of people who tune into the show regularly and follow us on this app. And here's my promise to you: I'll keep showing up with my whole heart. I'll keep inviting guests who inspire me and asking the questions that I know matter most to people like us, people building something right here in CNY. So thank you for being a part of this.